Hello everybody, I am Narayan Swami, an assistant professor of English from Government First Grade College Ankola, Uttara Kannada district. Today I will read and analyze a romantic poem with you. And this poem is in fact prescribed for second semester BA, BCom, BBA students of Karnataka University, Dharwad. I also would like to make an intensive kind of an interpretation and analysis of this poem in order to help the people who wish to read this as optional English students as well. So, the poem I have chosen to read with you today is La Belle Dame Sans Merci, a romantic poem. People who do not know what is romantic literature or romantic poetry, in the history of English literature, or if you trace back the history of England during 18th century, it was to some extent a transitional period. A lot of changes were taking place in the life of people. So England had witnessed wars, and there was a lot of disturbance, and slowly this industrialization taking its getting its pace, and people are becoming more and more materialistic, and their long-standing faiths were destroyed. So there was to some extent a disillusioned life which confronted these people. So the sensible minds just wanted to find an alternative in a resort, just wanted to escape from the harsh realities of life. So this attitude of finding some solace in imagination found its expression in romantic literature. So the group of these poets are the people who came in this period. In fact, as far as the literary form is concerned, poetry compared to any other form of literature gained its significance or importance in this period, 18th century. So among these romantic poets, William Wordsworth and Esther Coleridge brought out a very significant, a landmark kind of collection of poetry called Preface to Lyrical Ballads, just to prove that the poetry which was till then considered to be of for a privileged class, which was out of the reach of common man due to its sophisticated vocabulary and the subjects perhaps very profound, being profound and refined. So they just wanted to bring this nearer to common man, and they did succeed in it, as William Wordsworth admits in his Preface to Lyrical Ballads. The intention of writing this lyrical ballads was to bring this English poetry nearer to common man, and so they also employed the common man's language in writing this poetry. Though there was some contradiction, in claiming such thing, because his other friend S.T. Coleridge, who also collaborated with him, used a very refined and sophisticated language later in his poetry. So that apart, their focus was on common man, his surroundings, natural landscape, nature. So the and obviously imagination as an escape from reality. That we'll discuss because that also makes it relevant to read and understand John Keats' use of that imaginative powers. So imagination was the core of romantic poetry. So this man who lived a very short life, John Keats, who in fact died very young in his 26th year, succumbed to tuberculosis, has in fact left a monumental works uh, to be read and admired and researched for centuries to come. So in this poem, La Belle Dame Sans Merci, there is an unnamed or unidentified speaker who is talking to a knight, 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 a soldier, an armored soldier. Let's see, we'll read and understand. Oh, what can ail the knight at arms, alone and palely loitering? The sedge has withered from the lake, and no birds sing. The tone is little, melancholic, very sad. Uh, he just addresses the knight. He asks him, "What is bothering you, you knight at arms, armed knight, or knight, armed with weapons, carrying his weapons? Whether he is from war or going to war, it is not, clear. But the knight has come wandering into this forest or woods. So, what can ail thee? So, what is bothering you? What afflicts you? What can ail thee? Thee means you, an archaic English here. What can ail thee, knight at arms, alone and palely loitering? Loitering means wandering, and you seem to be just loitering without any purpose, alone, lonely, without some anybody's company. You have come alone, and you look very pale, and you look to have lost your energy, physical energy. You look very pale and tired. So this is the question. Second part of the first quatrain, which is being used, the entire poem in a ballad form, written in quatrains, 4-line stanzas. The sedge has withered from the lake. So there is a question: what is the relevance of this line? Why he has to say the sedge has withered from the lake? It has got nothing to do with the question he has asked. Sedge means grass-like plant which grows on the edge of the lake, or sometimes inside the water as well. So that has withered away, that has just been blown away and dried away. It's no longer there, and no birds sing. Obviously, the trees have shed their leaves, maybe indicative of winter or autumn, late autumn season, and trees have failed to shelter any bird, and so there is no singing of bird. That is the literal meaning. Even then, why he has to say this? Sedge has withered. What it has got to do with either the night or his arrival, or the first question he asks, what is bothering the night? So that makes me think whether this has been used as a slang here, because reading biographies of Keats, we realize that he was good at using modern slangs of those times. Through his letters and other such things, we learn that he was really good at using slangs of that time. So if you look into that kind of a dictionary, an urban dictionary of slangs, the sedge has withered from the lake says the sledge indicates some kind of sexual vigor, strength, physical strength of someone that has withered from the lake. Maybe it's been robbed of him. That could be the thing. And in that sense, this is not these lines are not really addressed to the knight. Maybe it is whispered to himself. He's just saying it in a lower voice to himself, and he seems to know what has happened to the knight. And if we buy this interpretation, it is also possible these two, because this is written in a dialogue form, there are two speakers, you can say. The first is the unnamed speaker, and the other one is the knight, who will also be talking in the further stanzas. So these two speakers of this poem could, according to me, represent represent two conflicting voices within a poet's own self. One which has got the realization, and one which has tasted the, I mean, the destructive power of women or love, that we will be discussing it, and the other who is subjected to that humiliation, subjected to that seduction. So this voice which has got the revelation is making a mockery of this person who has been just robbed of his youthful vigor. So that's one possibility. Even if you take it otherwise, assuming that in a literal sense there are two speakers, one is asking the knight, there will not be any wrong in it, I mean harm in it. We'll see. So the sedge has withered from the lake and no birds sing. Could be he is trying to set an ominous atmosphere, introduce the reader to a kind of inauspicious environment which could complement the further lines of this poem. So we'll move on to the next stanza. Oh, what can ail thee? There is a repetition, which is a very feature of a ballad, to have repetitions, so that it will provide a musical quality to the poem. So, oh, what can ail thee? And also to emphasize on the intensity of the emotion in which it's been articulated or said. What can ail thee, knight at arms? So this knight at arms, maybe trying to mock at him, in spite of being armed, you have failed in your defense. That could be the thing. That's my understanding. In spite of you being armed, you have failed to defend yourself. So you look worried and defeated, and you look to have lost something very significant and very vital to your own life and body. So you look very pale. That's a possibility. So, knight at arms, so haggard and so weak, oh, begone. So haggard, so exhausted, being dried up, being robbed of, as I said, having been sucked of the life energy. So, oh, begone. So grief-stricken you look, being tormented, having a gnawing agony at the core of your heart, you look grief-stricken. So this is another question. I mean, again, why you look so? Why you look to be in greater agony? And in the same way, as we witnessed a disconnection between the first question and the following lines in the first stanza, here is also the same thing again. Squirrel's granary is full. So what squirrel has got to do with this question of the knight being in agony? Why? What is the relevance? That is why I said it can be a kind of an usage of a slang to mean something else, something metaphorical. Squirrel's granary is full. So if you take this as a slang, squirrel's granary is full talks about a woman being at the peak of her youthfulness or desire, filled with hot desire, ready to pounce on somebody to get her desires quenched. That could be the thing. So he seems to know what has happened to the knight. The speaker seems to know. That is why I said these questions don't look to be actually questions at all. What can ail the knight at arms? They appear to be mere rhetorical questions. Rhetorical questions means the questions that do not demand any answer, but contain in themselves the answer. For example, if I say, am I a fool to believe you? I'm not expecting any answer from you. So if I tell somebody, am I a fool to believe you? It's just an affirmation or just a statement than a question. So I'm not at all expecting any answer. Likewise, this is a rhetorical question because speaker doesn't need any explanation from the knight, though he provides one in the further stanzas. He knows very well what might have gone wrong with this fellow knight at arms, this knight, armed knight. Maybe the speaker too had the experience and he knows what could be the predicament of a fellow who might have undergone such experience or such influence in life, which is still mysterious. What might have happened to the knight, will know that. I see a lily on thy brow. Keats' obsession with death is also quite evident in all his writing, because people who know the life of Keats, he's been all his life struggling against a terrible disease, tuberculosis. He had seen his mother die of tuberculosis and his brother Tom die of the same disease, and now it has just overwhelmed him and he's been suffering from this, and he knew that there was no escape and death was imminent. So in one of his letters to somebody, he says once he just coughed blood, spit blood on the blanket or bed sheet. So a friend was Charles Brown, his friend was with him. He immediately, Keats asks him to get the torch to see what is there. I mean, what kind of blood? Let me tell you what kind of blood means. He is an expert. He worked as an apprentice to a surgeon. He knows what it meant to cough blood or have blood in while coughing. And also color of blood, he says, looking at the blood stain, he says, Charles, this is definitely from arterial blood. So I cannot be deceived in it. I know. So which means this drop of blood is a death warrant to me. I must die, he says. So that's been a kind of constant agony he was undergoing all his life. And that was also greatly enhanced by his beloved Fanny Bran. After he loved, the conflict even increased. That we perhaps discuss it in some other class or while understanding his life and other such things. And also it has some relevance here also. I'll just come back to it. I see a lily on thy brow. So that's lily, and another flower described here in the very stanza, rose, in the next line, fading rose. So these two are often in patriarchal sense indicative of death, associated with death. So I see a lily on thy brow, usually of white color, lily. So pale brow means there is something ominous written already, that you have lost your vigor, you have lost your strength, and you look very pale, tired, and you are about to collapse perhaps. A lily on thy brow, and anguish moist in that perspiration, a fever dew, he says. So perspiration or on the sweat on your forehead says it all. And on thy cheeks a fading rose, and the cheeks are also turning very pale, losing its natural color, red, pink, they are turning white. So on thy cheeks a fading rose, fast witherest too, and they seem to go very fast, seem to become very pale, and so you are dying very fast, you are nearing your death. That's a kind of declaration than a question. But now, the passive listener so far, the night starts speaking. I met a lady in the meads, full beautiful, a fairy's child. Her hair was long, her foot was light, her eyes were wild. So I met a lady in the meadows. So I met a lady in the meadows, full beautiful. She was an extraordinary beauty, an enchantress. A fairy's child means an enchantress. Maybe she is not from this earth. She is from different planet, maybe from heaven. A supernatural being. She appeared in her, a beauty and grace. So graceful, she cannot be an inhabitant of this earth. Something like that. A fairy's child. So here many people have interpreted that this is there is a resemblance between the fairy being the woman, the La Belle Dame Sans Mercy, which translates to a beautiful woman without mercy. So this dame has some resemblance to Spenser's Fairy Queen. Of course, there is to some extent. Also, other such sources. I think it also she also bears a great resemblance to the one that who is described Titania, a kind of fairy woman in Shakespeare's Midsummer Night's Dream. And even the knight is also there, wandering knight. The mention of wandering knight is also there. His name is Thisbe. So certain events seem to have some parallel in Shakespeare's work also, and it is quite evident, and it is proved that he was greatly influenced by Shakespeare, and he has read Shakespeare, and he's been an admirer of Shakespeare all his life. Because of Shakespeare's writing, this negative capability, a literary theory also originated in his mind. That we'll discuss perhaps if it is required in our future discussions. So fairy's child, so she's like a sylph or nymph, or maybe this picture of a supernatural woman, a witch, a kind of woman taken from the medieval stories or Elizabethan stories or Greek mythologies. Of Homer also he has read enough. Possibility is there. Her hair was long, her foot was light, her eyes were wild. That is a very vivid description of a woman who does not really belong to this earth. Her hair was long, her foot was light, as if she was floating in the air. Or that way she walked was so elegant that she looked as if she was floating. So her foot was light and her eyes were wild. So here again a contradiction, contrast, kind of paradoxical description of the woman who looked so beautiful but had the eyes burning, perhaps wild eyes, maybe indicative of the hot desires in her, a mystery surrounding this very existence of fairy or queen or the lady or the woman. Or that is what something that he just couldn't decipher the purpose or the emotions of this woman. That is a possibility. It's being described as wild. Her eyes were wild. I made a garland for her head. Now there is the continuity. What happened afterwards when you witness such a sublime beauty, some extraordinary beauty, and also a mysterious existence of a woman, alluring enchantress. So perhaps he has surrendered, hence he started appreciating. In the sense, he started making advances of love, made a garland for her head, adored and appreciated. That could be the thing. He made garland for her head, bracelets too, different flowers and ornaments of flowers he has presented to her, and fragrant zone. And again, this fragrant zone is to some extent disconnected to the previous phrases. Fragrant zone, it might be that he has offered a girdle like garland made of flowers, fragrant flowers to her, to be worn around her waist. That is a literal meaning of it. It, in other words, it might mean the neither part of the woman. So fragrant zone, little erotic in nature in description perhaps. She looked at me as she did love. She looked at me as she did love. This La Belle Dame sans Merci was written in 1817, where Keats was hardly 24 years of age. He was very young and very, of course, gay in his spirit, very aggressive towards love and such a conception. Because if you look at his diary, or one of his biographers says, quotes from what he has written, in fact in one of his letters, "Give me women, wine and snuff, and that would be my trinity," he says. It also strangely has some resemblance to one of the ever celebrated authors of French literature, of course, who came after Keats, Baudelaire, in a famous a poetry collection of him, Flowers of Evil. Also says, "Be drunk, be drunk, be drunk on women, wine and virtue," he says. I mean, women, wine, then something else he says, I just have forgotten anyway. So women, wine and such stuff only. The similar, the same way what Keats has admitted here. So you should be in a state of intoxication to forget it. And because I quoted Charles Baudelaire here, because very strangely all his poetry also appear to be the extended version of Keats' agony and Keats' conflict of love and women. I mean, the poetry writing and his lady love, which couldn't go together in his life. So that destroyed his spirit, as he admits through several of his letters, and that was the also cause of perhaps his physical ailment too, to some extent, as doctor often could advise him about setting his thoughts right, because he grew to be suspicious of women's loyalty, as he himself says, and maybe that was originated from the kind of agonizing childhood he had, and his mother's character, attitude, and all such accusations and humiliation that she was subjected to after the death of her husband. And there are several other such things. He led a very impoverished and agonized life all his literary career. So here coming back to the poem, that was the description. So he saw a woman in meadows, and he made a garland for her, and fragrant zone. So that fragrant zone might be indicating that their confrontation or meeting already resulted in some sort of physical union. She looked at me as she did love. She looked at me as if, or in great perhaps with great desire, you can say, as if she did love, means they already involved in the act of love making, perhaps, because the next line justifies it. She made and made sweet moan. So a kind of moan or groan produced in ecstasy or in love, quite possible. So they did have this, did make this love in meadows. Then the next stanza, I set her on my pacing steed. Nothing else saw all along, all day long. For sidelong would she bend and sing a fairy song. So he was totally lost. That enchanting atmosphere, he just forgot himself. He got carried away, and she has cast a spell around him that he couldn't think of anything else other than her, but her. So I see her on my pacing steed. So maybe I set her on my pacing steed, literal meaning, we can say I just took her on my horse. That is the literal meaning. The other possible metaphorical meaning could be that this act of love just continued, went on to the peak of pleasure. So I sat on my pacing steed, nothing else all day long, nothing could, I think of while she is with me. For sidelong would she bend and sing a fairy song. Maybe she was enjoying, his company, and she is occupied, him. That is the indication that that she went on singing and all. Again, these were modern slangs of that time. Sidelong would she bend and sing might very well indicate how much she was involved in that love making. So he couldn't think of anything else. She found me roots of relish sweet. So now she fed him some strange roots. Found me roots of relish sweet. They were very sweet. Maybe he has never tasted them before. And honey wild honey, something again very sweet. And manna dew, something of a nectar like thing. She fed him with everything. Maybe these all these things, natural stuffs found in midst of forest would enhance his perhaps desire and intoxicating mood, create that intoxicating mood, and so he becomes wild in love, an act of love, and sure in language strange, he said. And he says she said it in a strange language, still I could understand, but it